learn some stuff today, I'll tell you what. Um, learn about
Maybe we
you.
will too. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, maybe just tell us a little bit about, a little bit about yourself, where you grew up. Where did it all start for you in your life? Where were you
Sure.
born?
Yeah, actually born here in Sydney. Grew up on the upper North Shore in South Turramurra, and just had a very came from my family were both my parents' families were from pretty traditional Catholic backgrounds. You know, everyone knew everyone in those communities in those days. Anyway, when I was about 10, the dad moved the family over to Adelaide with work, which is why where I tragically became a Port Power supporter. And by the way, they've been number one on the AFL ladder for about 9 weeks now, which is the longest stretch they've ever had.
Yeah, I think the Swannies are up there too, actually.
Wow.
One in a row.
A lot of strange things at the moment in this world. Lived there for quite a long time, and Corrie and I met when I was about 30 years ago. Yeah, in my mid-20s, and through friends of friends, we didn't go to the same schools or churches or anything like that, but it was one of those things. I guess in retrospect, was there was some proper divine intervention at work there, because actually Corrie thought I was a pretty strange person, probably still half right, but so there wasn't an immediate affection there, but like good things that grew over time.
Who had to do the work, you or her?
Well, I had to do the work officially. That's the way it works, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's roles that have been made for us, and yeah, we both play those roles in different ways at different times. Yeah.
So tell me about your. You said you sort of had a bit of a Catholic upbringing. What was your faith journey like, and where did that start to kind of develop, I suppose? And
yeah. I went through all the very traditional things in the early years. A lot of strange rules and formulas for equating different sins with different amounts of penance and all this kinds of stuff that particularly to an analytic like myself was like this value system, and almost like a currency exchange rate of goodness for badness, and it was weird. But anyway, in my early teen years, I got involved with a youth group at church, which had some really good leadership, and
that in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Mm.
And it actually used to meet in an old butcher shop, actually. And on the side of the butcher shop, it had a big, someone had spray painted and tagged "Jesus saves, apply within." And I always remember that. Yeah. And that worked out really well. My family was starting to head into a bit of strife at that stage when I was in my teenage years. Dad had some pretty common issues of addiction that just gradually kind of disintegrated the family over time. But I found really good leadership and true introduction to Jesus and God through the youth leadership there at the church. So that was really important time for me. So when I was about 15, I really took on a commitment to God, for myself. It wasn't part of being the Catholic club. It was the true personal, relationship with Jesus and God. And I actually, being a teenager, of course, that's a time in your life when you're very impressionable. And I was very impressed by the Jesus guy. I thought, when I grow up, I'd love to be like him. He's really cool. So yeah, made a big impression on my life, and in a great way.
Yeah. There was obviously a few people in your life that really influenced and shaped your faith. I mean, I think people in general, this is it's not a solo journey by any means. And I think that, it's the way God created us to be in community. And even today we find that if we're in community with good people, it helps shape, I suppose, what we believe and how we understand Jesus and how we journey with him. Was there some people in your life that really influenced and I suppose shaped, went from that kind of, I suppose, that traditional religious environment to kind of a transition, I suppose, a little bit into the faith you have today?
Yeah, definitely. The leader of the youth movement at church, Tim, we became very lifelong friends. Actually, he passed away just a few years ago. But
Yeah.
when I when home really fell apart, I actually went and lived. We actually formed a bit of a small community. We had a very you know Axe style small community of about 12 people, and we did church at home. Like we didn't actually go to the bricks and mortar church then. We were good friends with a renegade priest who came and said church for us, and just help us with guidance and stuff. So that was good. And I ended up moving out of home, and I lived with these people. We were doing the well, let's just share stuff and live under each other's roof, and that really saved me. And so these people, through their active display of just love as the action, not as the noun, the verb, they just really got me through it, made a massive impression on me. And and in particular with my family falling apart, they very much were the people I learnt from about how to be a bloke, and ultimately how to grow up and be a man, so that eventually I could have my own family, because I couldn't have done that otherwise. Yeah, so these people are very people of God who've just really loved me into a great life.
Yeah, that's good. And how would you describe your faith today? Like, what's important to you when it comes to faith and family and some of that stuff? How it interacts?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a little bit of an ongoing mystery. I'm on the search, the perpetual search, I think, for what it means to. The mission's getting clearer though. It's just about love to actually to do it. But it's not always obvious in life how to do that. So connecting with God and praying regularly, often is just becoming more and more important over time, which is good. Like,
Yeah.
life's kind of, in one sense, getting a little bit simpler. Just spend more time with, in the presence of God, and more time doing love with, with people, and a lot of the other complications in life, they're still there, but yeah, trying to shift the the worry factor, and we all get anxious about things, like just trying to constantly work through that.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
still
that's good.
still on the search a bit about how to do all that.
Well, it's interesting too. Yeah, like in that transition, you talked about how you grew up in an environment that was very structured, very ceremonial, some of that sort of stuff, and then moved into I suppose your faith journey now, which is trying to become a little less complicated, a little more uncomplicated. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's certainly a lesson for all of us. Um,
Yep.
I suppose I love when you share, you share how you see God, and certainly have some great illustrations. And one of the big illustrations, I suppose, of your life is just understanding how you got involved with your passion for drinking. So tell me about that.
Yeah, it's yeah, well, it's one of those mysteries, like I've I've had an interest in wine for for decades, like since I was really probably in my early 20s, and I'm very interested in the whole the viticulture. You know, how you actually grow grapes and all that, and make wine. I love talking to winemakers. They're mostly extremely interesting. You know, very nice, with no puns intended, down to earth people. You know, um, I mean, how lucky are they? They get to spend a lot of time tending vines. You know, like I find that stuff fascinating.
Mm.
And then we had John 15 today at church. I mean, wow, bingo! Like it's very interesting to me that Christ chose to talk to people in his day through the model of the kingdom of God being the grapevine.
Mm.
Um, Actually, just read a interesting book, which wine, as it turns out, in that area was a 5,000-year-old industry before Jesus started talking about it. So it was pretty smart on his part. He's talking about stuff that people understood and could relate to really easily. So a great tool for him to use to explain what the kingdom's like.
Is there some particular parallels that you just see that really are highlighted to you? Like as you learn about grapes and you learn about some of, the vine and stuff that really stands out to you?
Yeah, there's some striking things that I keep running into. Like I saw some photos of a grape bud. You know, the bud in spring just before it bursts is this little woolly thing. It looks like the end of a cotton wool stick. And if you actually dissect that and put a magnifying glass over it, you can see the new grape clusters that are coming, and the new leaves are in there ready to. It's almost like telescopic that rolls out, and it strikes me that this is like God, when He created us, we've got all this stuff in us ready to go. We just need life and love to bring that out of us and to grow that out of us.
Mm.
It's remarkable, and then to need to have pruning every year is that's exactly what we need too.
Mm. Yeah, we
And
often
you
talk about the
see,
pruning in the sense of, it just happened once in a lifetime, but, the regularity of it
yeah,
is interesting, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. A grapevine, if you leave it, will if it's on fertile ground, it'll just go mad producing leaves. And I see this as being like us, where we take on interests and external things in our lives, where we just go mad, on external issues, and maybe putting on a flashy exterior. A big grapevine looks amazing, but the bigger they get, the less fruit they produce, actually.
Mm.
And even the fruit they do produce, they can't ripen it, so it never gets sweet. It's bitter. Um, so the pruning's really important, about keeping us focused and just to the right size, and just try and produce the right number of clusters of grapes every year.
Mm.
But if you look after it, there's grapevines in Australia that are over 100 years old, still producing beautiful wine, because they've been pruned every year.
Mm.
Like, it might look like in any one season a small number of grapes, but over a century, like
Mm.
that's incredible, the amount of output it's had. So
Yeah.
all through an act of love, really.
Yeah. That's a great picture. Just the fact that God's heart for us is to bear fruit, you know, through our whole life, not just to bear fruit in certain, years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That struck me today reading John 15 about the keep it to a small number of grapes in one year, but over the life there'll be hurdles, endless.
So what's the process with the grapes? I know my wife Tammy's talked about the crushing process, and I don't know much about wine. I barely even drink this stuff. So I feel like I'm an absolute amateur having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
the pressing, we read that song, New Wine,
yeah, yep,
Mm.
yep, absolutely. And in fact, I was reminded today that in Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 5, God is the vintner, and has this amazing vineyard, but the fruit is bitter. So, it's very vivid. He smashes it and crushes the grapes in anger, um, which is, a cautionary tale and a scary story in a sense. But yeah, after the grapes, yeah, it's basically white, you crush it, then ferment it. Red, you ferment it and then crush it. It's one way or the other. Um, then bottle it. Yep.
And drink
Make
it. And what I do know is if you leave it, it tastes better or something, doesn't it?
It can do, yeah, yep. Yeah, particularly, yeah, a lot of famous reds are designed that way. But I'm like, I don't know, life's too short right here on Earth. Yeah, I've got a good friend who passed a couple of years ago, and he was collecting premium wine, and he just wanted to have one good bottle every day in retirement. So, he left us with 135 dozen premium wines sitting in the garage, and it's like, boy, what a waste. So, um, I reckon just get what you need, and if you like a drink, have a drink. Don't store it away for 10 years time. Live for today. It's a great lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that that's part of where he's the vine, we're the branches. He wants us to enjoy, and you've talked about that even today in the sense of you have your story. A very you start off in this sense where faith's very regimented, or and then you work into this simplified faith where it's all about just being loved because God is love and staying connected to Him and enjoying His presence. It's been a great transition, and just to kind of even, hearing about, the wine and the vine, that I feel like that's the sweet spot where we need to be in our faith journey. It's
Yeah,
very uncomplicated, as you said.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And there's a house down the street actually. It's got this grapevine that's hasn't been touched for 20 years. It is completely out of control, and it's just a mess. And it's like our lives can get, and it wouldn't be producing one ounce of fruit now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah, just completely not reaching its potential.
Yeah. I think sometimes I feel like this story is a gift to you because I feel like sometimes, as you said, this has been something you've loved and been interested in for a long time. And in some ways, it's kind of shaped your understanding of God, would you say? How He works?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a parable that He's just given to you,
Yep,
you know?
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, you're spot on. And actually, I've got a Shiraz vine out in the front yard actually, and which the boys from Cellar Group have seen, and it's fascinating. Just I check it out every day, and keep thinking about what we've been talking about. I've kind of got the living tutorial in the front yard. I'm
Mm.
very fortunate there.
Yeah. Well, that's what our relationship's meant to be like. It's meant to be living, meant to be active, constantly, getting understanding, revelation.
Yep,
Um,
yep,
yeah, it's pretty special.
yep.
Um, that's awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Um, I don't know. It's certainly been a interesting year for all of us, and
Mm,
literally right around the world. Um, very a tough year, but a lot of good things will come out of it. And it's very odd that at first to think that by being forced apart, we're actually been growing together in
mm,
new ways. And so yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is just what are the blessings out of all this? Because I think there are some. We just need to get our mind's in the right space to search that out.
Yeah, because you were sharing with me, obviously your life's been fairly impacted just with work, and so it's certainly been under the pump, yeah?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we got about 10,000 employees at work, and the vast majority of them are either not working now or working far less hours. So, that's the human toll of this just on people's day-to-day lives has just been incredible. Not something anyone was prepared for. We're certainly making it up as we go at work, just with all the best intentions we can.
Mm. Yeah, it's a tough season. I think, you wouldn't want to do it without Jesus, right?
No, because you've got to have that anchor. That you've got to have that bit that's rooted into the ground that won't move. Because man, there's a hell of a storm going on otherwise.
Yeah, it's good. And I think, as we talked about, just staying connected to that vine.
Yep. And don't be scared of the prune. And it occurred to me today too, reading John 15, that God is the vine keeper. You're not going to get the pruning if you're trying to stay away from God.
Wow. Yeah.
Get close to God and you'll get the right pruning and bear the right fruit.
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to that original illustration, what was that small thing you were looking at, where God sees our potential, sees everything in us. And so he's always trying to produce, that vision or that purpose, that original, destiny that
That's
he's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that requires sometimes for us to, for him to prune and, because he's seeing stuff that we're not seeing.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Right, Pete. Thanks, mate.
Right, Bourke.
Been awesome.
Yeah, good.
And really appreciate your time and sharing, a bit of your story. And I'm sure there's people in the church probably might have some other power fans and, certainly people that have been through, tough times with, early in life with faith and with family and, and certainly people that, have the potential now to really see great hope, which I think that's
Yep.
what the stories are about, great hope.
Absolutely.
And and God works things out, and as you've stayed connected to Him. So, thanks for that. You're such a blessing to our church, and we really appreciate you, mate. And it's been good to chat.
Thanks, Brooke.